All right, welcome in. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. This is the second podcast of Idahomie. Me, host being Mr. Gary Mitchell. We got Joe Cooper with us. This is the second podcast that we're doing for evolvUP. Last podcast we had was just telling you guys a little bit about evolvUP, what it's for, who we're trying to reach, and the lives that we're trying to change. This second podcast is a little bit more about me and him on a personal basis, getting to know my background more, getting to know his background more, where he's from, where I'm from, and just family and morals and beliefs and how we were raised and the two different lifestyles, how they vary from somebody all the way up in a whole nother state from me being here in Colorado, So this is Joe. I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
Yeah, so I was originally I was born in Provo, Utah, which we were talking about earlier. So that's the home of BYU. So some of you might know BYU, the university. So my dad was actually in college at BYU when I was born. So I lived there in the Provo, Orem area, Utah County, Utah, for the first 11 years of my life. So I've got 5 sisters and 1 brother, me and my brother right in the middle.
And sister, 1 brother, 6 kids, huh?
Yeah, well, so there's seven total. So I got 6 siblings, and there's a lot of them, and especially 5 sisters. That's a lot. Hopefully they don't watch this, but
that's a lot of girls. That's a lot of girls.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's a lot of moms in one household. So family reunions get interesting. But no, it was great. So my parents have been married for 40 plus years. So it's been a long time. We lived down there until, like I said, until I was 11, and then we moved up to Idaho, which is the Idaho part of Idahomie. And then I lived in Idaho basically till I moved out. So been up there for a long time. My parents are back there.
About what age was that?
What's that?
What about what age did you move out, leave the state?
So it's kind of moving out was a little bit different. So I graduated high school, and then I worked for a year, and then I went on a mission for my church. So I went and lived in the Philippines for 2 years.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. So that was a cool experience, which, maybe we can get into a little bit more of that later. But so I did a 2-year mission for my church in a year after high school, and then I got back from my mission, and then pretty much immediately started college. And so I went to college up at BYU, Idaho, and then was there for about 3 years. So I was kind of.
Now we see why you like him. I knew it was something.
Yeah. Yeah, my Cougars are doing great this year. It's a little bit different with the weird schedule, but they're doing great. So I was up there, so kind of in and out. When I was in school, obviously I was up there, but then I'd come home, and then when I graduated, got married, and then moved out, and then lived in New Mexico, Colorado, which is where we met, Missouri, Idaho, back down to Utah. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, me myself, I'm from Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as far as your location and where you grew up at, how was the neighborhood? How was the environment your neighborhood that you grew up in? How was that growing up?
Well, I mean, it was cool.
Totally different from mine.
It's probably a little bit different. So yeah, the neighborhoods that I grew up in. So I remember when we lived in Orem. So there was the house I lived in until I was 5. A lot of kids in that neighborhood. I remember my older siblings, like they were always out and about with their friends. I don't remember a lot of kids my age there. But then we moved to another house. We built a home in a neighborhood nearby, and it was just kids up and down the street. So we'd always play, night games, kick the can, and whatever else. So we're always out playing, and so the things that I remember about that the most. So I played baseball a lot growing up, and my dad loved baseball. So we would go out in the backyard, and I was a catcher. So we would measure off home plate to second base, and he and I would go out and we would throw and practice that throw from home base to second base. And he and my brother and myself would go out and run football routes, and that's what I remember growing up is a lot of time spent with my dad playing sports, out with the neighborhood kids, doing that kind of thing. And then going to Idaho, obviously, was a little bit different because I was older, so we're not doing night games and stuff. But my time was mostly filled, playing sports. I would get on my bike and ride to my friend's house, and we would, hang out. And it was mostly like sports and hanging out with my friends and doing a lot of stuff with my dad. That was growing up to me.
Man, it sounds like a movie. for me at least. It sounds like one of those nice movies you watch. Well, just because for me growing up out here in Colorado on a 5 Points neighborhood on the east side of Denver,
Yeah.
it wasn't nothing pretty and it wasn't nothing nice. So my mom moved out here when I was younger. My mom's from Louisiana. My dad is from Kansas City, Missouri. A lot of my family is still back out in Louisiana. So when we stationed out here, it was kind of like my mom's friends became aunts and uncles, and my dad's friends became aunts and uncles. And I think I had one biological auntie that was out here, and that was my Aunt Bernice.
Yeah.
And which I had my cousins from over there, but majority of the aunts and uncles I had was my mom and dad's friends that they basically brought in tight with the family.
Yeah.
For us as kids, it was 6 of us as well, but it was 6 of us in a 2-bedroom. I remember on Barrett, a lot of me and my brothers had to stack up on each other in the bed to go to bed. Me and one of my older brothers, we had to share showers just so all the hot water wouldn't run out and things of that nature, and as far as the neighborhood kids go, it was so my mom always told us, get out, go outside, go play. So something like that. So little did she know was us going outside was getting us involved in a lot of stuff that she wouldn't have liked. If she would have really knew what we were doing when we were outside, she would have said, stay your butt in the house. So
what kind of stuff was it? Like, do you want to go into details at all?
Yeah. The very first time I had a sip of wine, it was in the back of our alley. It was a wine bottle that was still full, halfway full, sitting in the back alley. Me and my sisters playing in the alley, and we just decided to be nosy and take a sip of the wine. Wild Irish Rose, that's exactly what it was. Wild Irish Rose was the first sip of wine we had. Besides that, me just getting involved with the kids throwing rocks at cars. This is the kiddie stuff, which eventually led to me smoking, to me drinking, to me trying to stay out late, getting my head split open.
How old were you when that was happening?
The first time I smoked a cigarette, I was 8 years old. The first time I smoked weed, I was 10 years old. The first time I actually got drunk with an alcoholic beverage, I was 11 years old. So as a kid, it wasn't us just out as kids climbing trees and things of that nature. We were cutting up. We was up to no good. And I remember early as a teenager, I was buying alcohol from the liquor store in my neighborhood. It's wild. It was wild. But which this leads me to my next question for you. In your household, was your parents married or were they divorced, or how did that work with your parents?
Yeah, so I mean, they've been married, they got married really young. So my mom, I think she was like barely 20 or not quite 20. She had just barely turned 20. And so they're in their late 60s now, and they've been married since. So, I mean, 46 years, I think. So they've been married. I mean, that's all I knew. And I mean, obviously, I probably knew some people that have been divorced, but that wasn't common as far as I knew. Now that I've gotten older and I've, associated with more people, it's, I understand it's more common. But that, I mean, growing up, like everybody was married. Like that was just kind of.
So did you ever see arguments, house fights, arguments over money, domestic violence, anything like that?
No, I mean, no domestic violence. I mean, there were little disagreements, I would say. I would never say that I ever saw my parents like argue.
Fight.
Like fighting. Like I don't remember ever seeing that. And I mean, even now, like they act like an old married couple. I mean, there's little dumb arguments, and it's kind of like an argument, like you just shake your head like you guys are an old married couple. You act like you've been married for 45 years is what you act like. Other than that, no, not really. Like it was just, there are little disagreements here and there, but nothing major nothing that ever made me feel like uncomfortable or unsafe or anything like that.
I saw my first domestic violence in my house when I was 7.
Hmm.
When I was 7 years old, was the first time I seen the police show up at my house from my father being high off of crack cocaine and putting his hands on my mom. It scared the heck out of me, man. Like, the fight itself scared me, you know, because as a kid, it's very traumatizing. It traumatized me a lot, and from there on, I saw more and more and more, and just him going to prison for domestic violence, them fighting over money, food. There's an instance, I don't remember, I don't know if I was born, but it was going on before I was born, that during Thanksgiving, my father threw the whole turkey out the window, having a disagreement with my mom from the table. So even Thanksgiving wasn't the best for us. And it really traumatized me a lot, because there's times where I literally saw him punch her in the face. Man, just thinking about it right now, it sucks. It sucks for somebody to grow up to see that, you know, and then for it to be your own father, you know, and then your mom seemed like she's just defenseless.
Yeah.
And it's just horrible. And not only did I see it, but my sisters were seeing it too.
Yeah.
As young women. So it messed us up a lot. So they were married, but my father, he cheated on her a lot.
Yeah.
He ran the streets a lot. He did drugs a lot, you know, so their marriage was broken, and eventually they got divorced and kind of just hung around, basically, because, you know, we've been married, we've been together, we got all these kids together, so let's keep it on and try and keep it on a good note. But they eventually divorced and then got remarried later on, but it was up and down, up and down.
So I wanted to ask you something. So I know we've kind of talked about this before, but just you bringing this up, it made me curious. What was your relationship like with your father, like with your dad? Like, what was, like, just in general? I mean, what was that relationship like?
There was no relationship between me and my father. One time I recall him taking me to the movies to see what was that? Dang, what was that? The movie with the big animal, I forgot what it's called. But I know he took me one time to see the movies, and he bought me a wallet. We went to Family Dollar. He bought me a wallet. We rode the bus. First one-on-one dad experience I ever had with him. Besides that, I have no relationship with him, no built-in friendship, no chemistry, no anything, you know. When we were selling candy for the school, he stole all of our candy money and ran off to Missouri. So it wasn't really, and then growing up, when I started selling drugs and stuff, I ended up selling to my father. So if anything, that's when our own relationship started, because I was selling him crack cocaine in our own house.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, because I was thinking about that the other day, and I was just having a conversation with my dad last night. Like, we were together for a family thing. So I was just having a conversation with him, and he was talking to me about some of the things that I've, you know, said and posted on Facebook, and, you know, was impressed with it. And he was joking, like, I don't know where it came from, but, like, honestly, like, where it came from for me, like, I spent a lot of time with my dad growing up. And to me, like, he was like the smartest man in the world. Like, he knew everything. He had the answer to everything. We were out, like, playing catch, and you know, like, we just spent a lot of time together through sports and just, you know, whatever. And I think it makes such a huge difference. And that's why, like, I look at what you're doing with your son now. And obviously we talked about this a little bit last time, where you saw this pattern.
Yes.
Of, like, you were kind of following this same pattern, but, like, I think that the role of the father is so important. And, like, you just, like, when it's not there, and you know, and you can probably talk more about this in a second, but, like, when that relationship is not there, the impact is so big. It's just, it's so big.
Yeah. Without him being present, I had to seek for male role models, male figures to fill in that position, you know, and they were the wrong type of male role models that I needed. So with my son, man, I'm there at all costs, every conversation, anytime, any place. and I'm living as I should to be a positive influence and a positive father in his life. Because even if my father was there at the times, it was me seeing him drinking or arguing or smoking or something of that nature where my mom caused confusion. So even when he was around, he wasn't even leading in the right way. So it was kind of like like I said, when I was growing up, I always said I didn't want to be anything like this man. I don't want to be nothing like him. But in your case, your father was a role model who was somebody who you would like to be like.
Oh yeah.
But for me, it was totally different. I was like, I don't want to be nothing like this man. So yeah, it definitely played a role in my life. And I feel like if he was present to discipline me and everything else and lead me in the right direction instead of my mother trying to raise me plus the other 5 kids she had,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have ended up in the places that I were, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and honestly, like there's just a role that a father plays in a household that I mean, the single mothers, like they do the best they can, but like
Yeah.
there's just you can't replace it. Like you can't
No, you can't.
replace the role of a father, especially in a young man's life. Like you just, well, I mean, I guess I should say, because you were talking about your sisters too. Like you can't replace it in, like when women start looking at how, when they're getting into relationships themselves, like they're looking at what a man should be like. Like that's a lot. They're
Right.
looking at their father and they're looking at the relationship of their parents. And
Yes. Yes.
yeah, just, I mean, it can't be replaced, and it's so big. And I think that, we're seeing more and more of it where like, dads just aren't there. And even if they are there, they're not there sometimes, which is unfortunate, but
How do you think it would have been if he wasn't present in your life? It would have went a totally different way. You couldn't even imagine it, huh?
yeah, I mean, I can't even, like, my dad was such a central part of all of my life growing up
Right.
that I can't even, like, I don't even know what it would be like having him not there. Like I look at my relationship with my mom, and there's no, like, my dad, obviously he was the disciplinarian. So he was the one that, you're going to do this, you keep your words, you
So I'm
follow
gonna
the
kick
rules.
your butt. Huh?
Yes, yeah, very much. Yeah, exactly. And my mom, like, she could have tried, but I mean, I was bigger than her by the time I was 12.
Right.
So it probably wouldn't have been super effective. Like if I would have wanted to rebel, like my dad wouldn't have let me, but if he wasn't there, I don't think my mom could have stopped me.
Mm.
So I mean, she would have made me feel bad, and it would, eventually that kind of goes away.
And that's where it came hard for my mom
Yeah.
because I would rebel and run away and all of this stuff. And I was causing so much strife for my mom that she ended up having a stroke
Mm.
behind my actions. It was so much for her. She had a stroke, and man, until this day, I feel so bad about it. Used to always apologize to her all the time before she passed away. But being grown and having a renewed mind, a renewed spirit, and just lifestyle, and just sitting back and pondering, I know I put that woman through hell.
Yeah.
And like, and it was basically because I didn't have a father there to direct me or teach me or show me how to be a young man growing up.
Yeah.
So instead, I go out here to the streets, and that's what they're teaching me, and I'm bringing that home.
Yep. I mean, and if nothing else, because there's only one of them, it's twice as much work. And that's not, I mean, and that's taken out all of the other, like the influence that the dad has and the relationship between the two of them. Like, just not even thinking about any of that stuff. Just the fact that there's one of them instead of two, that's twice as much work. And when you've got that many kids, like it's overwhelming. Like that's like impossible for me. Like I can't even imagine, like, parenting with a spouse is super hard. Doing it by myself, like that would be super hard.
Oh,
Like,
them girls drive you crazy.
Yeah. I wouldn't even know what to do. Like if I had 4 daughters by myself, they'd all be screwed up.
You don't even know how to do no hair.
No, they'd all look raggedy, and they have like dirt in their hair probably.
That's funny. So growing up, I was raised in the church, right across from the projects we were raised in. It was Holy Spirit Missionary Baptist Church, which is the church home I came back to with my same pastor there, which was a blessing, man.
So is that where you're going now?
Yes, same
that's
pastor,
cool. That's
same
awesome.
everything. So it's wonderful. But every Sunday, Mama is up kicked us out the house. Like, you better get your butt on down over there to church, and you better get there on time. So, but every morning we walk out, we look at her like, you ain't coming? And she never came to service. She came during like Mother's Day, things of that nature. Yeah. But growing up, I understood it was more of her wanting us to have that foundation, because she already knew who the Lord was and things of that nature. But she wanted us just growing up to have that solid foundation. So we were raised Christian. Mm-hmm. We were raised Christian, Baptist. I got baptized when I was younger. When I was younger, I was a lead singer in the choir. Mm-hmm. I was a young deacon at the time before I got caught up in the streets. So I was already a leader in the church, but the things that were going on in my house, I was like, Lord, what is going on? You know what? I think I'm gonna take a break, and I didn't really understand being young. So I just stopped going to church and I let the streets overtake me. So I don't know how you were raised, or what your religious faith was or your base was, but what was that?
Yeah, so I mean, I was raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which sometimes is called Mormon. A lot of people call us Mormon. We don't really go by Mormon anymore, but like it's very much like a Christ-centered, like that's what your religion is, and it's like our church is very much a way of life. Like it's right. Like you've got your church services on Sunday, but then you've got youth activities and kid activities, and you go visit other people that live nearby you, and like it's very much like it's not just where you go to church, it's who you are. And I can't remember. I mean, even from the time I was very little, I don't remember missing church for anything other than like being sick or something. Like we don't miss church. And I mean, that's kind of how I've raised my kids too now is, it's been a little weird during this pandemic thing where everything's been shut down, but like that was growing up. Like church was not a place we went to. Church was a part of who we were. And it's very much like a culture.
Amen. So the last time before I was reborn a few years back, and came back to service and gave my life back to the Lord, it had been 20 years.
Wow.
Since I had entered into church doors or had been to a church. Best decision of my life was giving my life back to the Lord. And I tell you, I'm more happy in my life today than I ever have been. So it wasn't easy because the streets had a hold on me, though. I wasn't around other people that were attending service or wanted to attend service. But at the same time, I still had it in my heart and in my spirit of I knew better. I knew what I should have been doing. But man, when your flesh take over and you don't try to fight it, it is, man, I tell you, it's a fight. So with my sons, I have them attending service with me every Sunday. Yeah. Bible study, worship, and I agree with you because it's a lifestyle, it's a way of living. That's what it has to be. Reading and just going to service, but you have to live out your faith. So I definitely agree with you on that. A lot of people say, remember I used to ask you all these questions about Mormons and how they used to say you could have 4 wives and y'all couldn't drink pop and
one wife is enough.
All that other stuff. Right. I think a lot of people try to make a reason to run from a certain type of faith or a reason to run. And that's one of the things I did, that those whole 20 years, I knew I should have been doing better, but I decided to run because I felt like I'm not ready. God's not going to accept me how I am until he literally broke me down and brought me to my knees and made me come back to the church. So yeah, we were raised Christian. I'm glad I got a little bit more understanding of that because I didn't know you were Lutheran. I did not know that. I didn't know Mormon and Lutheran were the same thing. I didn't know
they're not. So Lutheran and Mormon are different things. Yeah, so they're very different.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, and so it's funny though because I think that like our church I think is one of the, like, it's pretty misunderstood, I think. And I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that I could go into of questions that I've gotten over the years, but I mean, it's funny. But the foundation of it is, and it's kind of what we were talking about earlier, like the foundation is like faith in Jesus Christ and his power to be able
Amen.
to like build you up and strengthen you.
Amen.
And this is similar to the question you're asking me about, like if my dad wasn't around, what would it have been like? It's the same question. What would life have been like had I not had that in my life? And like, okay, so what I was talking, kind of referenced this earlier. So my brother-in-law passed away this last week from
Yes,
cancer.
yes,
So he'd been
yes.
battling for about a year and a half. So we were at his, I think they were calling it a wake. So it was with COVID, it was kind of weird. We can't really have funerals. So, but we were gathering. That's where I was talking to my dad, and just the thought of not having that faith of what life is like beyond death would be so hard in that moment. It's hard enough already. Like it's hard enough dealing with death and uncertainty and just the struggle that life throws at you, but not having that
Right.
foundation of faith, like it would just make it so much harder. And
Yeah.
like to be able to have that foundation to like the hope that it brings, it really makes a huge difference in life and just the quality of life that you have, that you're not like you worry less. And yes, it is hard and it requires discipline, but the benefits of it far outweigh the difficulty
Yeah.
of being able
Yeah.
to live that life.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So I'm pretty sure if you were raised with this foundation, with this belief, then your siblings were as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So how was the relationship with the siblings growing up? How was it with your sisters?
Well,
Were there
I mean,
fights? Get out of my room before I kick your butt, or
yeah, well, I mean, no, we're good. Like we're all close, and like we still get together. We still have like family reunions, and we're grown and have our own families and all those things now. But I mean, growing up, I had 5 sisters, and they picked on me, and I probably picked on them, and but there was never like problems, like never actually like real problems. There's sibling problems, but there was never real problems. And and they're all still faithful, and they're all they all still go to church and live good lives and have faith and do all those kinds of things. And I think that goes back to what we talked about earlier with the parents. And that's how my parents taught me. And there was my dad there with the discipline, and we're going to be at church, and we're going to live this life, and we're going to follow these rules. And granted,
I think. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say it seemed hard at the time, but now that we're older, like you see the benefits of it.
Right. I think that played a strong influence on us in our house, seeing them two fight, because man, it was chaos in the house with us. Yeah. Boy, I tell you, my sister's fighting. She didn't crack my other sister in the head with a coffee cup. My brother's fighting. I'm fighting my brothers, and I'm the baby. So I done fought every single one of my siblings in the house. Every single one. We done all fought. My sisters and them, my 2 sisters, they were fighting over some socks. Yeah. And my other sister took the mug and cracked my other sister in the head with the coffee mug over some socks. Yeah. My brothers are fighting because we all were just angry just seeing that in the household. It's not like we saw be peacemakers, be peaceable, solve your problems without violence, and then going outside. The friends in the neighborhood, you got a problem, you better fight it. If you come back and you done lost the fight, you getting whooped by your mama and your daddy too, type stuff. Yeah. So it was like on that part, we were going to church and things of that nature, but in our neighborhood, it was survival of the fittest, even as a young kid. So taking that and bringing it into the house, we were all fighting every day of the week.
Yeah. I mean, if that's what you see, like that's what you do. You do what you see. And so if you see like you resolve your problems with violence, then that's how you solve your problems, is with violence.
Exactly.
And if you learn to solve your problems with words, and even if you get heated sometimes, you learn, like you do what you see.
Right. And then here we go, taking it into school. And remember I told you I had my basketball scholarship. Yeah. But I'm so angry and a wild child that during a basketball game I try to fight the referee.
Yep.
got 3 technicals in 3 seconds, and next thing I know, I lose my scholarship. So it all played a significant part in my life, and then just growing up in my lifestyle. So going off of that, so you heard just a little bit about mine. How was your schooling? How was schooling for you and things of that nature? In my neighborhood, I got suspended from my very first school in 3rd grade.
Mm-hmm.
I got suspended because my pride was hurt. I chased a boy all the way from the classroom to the principal's office with the desk in my hands, trying to smack him in the head with the desk.
That's
man.
Some violence problems.
I'm holding his desk over my head, chasing him all the way to the principal's office. And they were like, no, we're done with this kid. Because before that, every single day I was in detention. Every single day, which made my mom put us in a Catholic school. Going to the Catholic school, totally different from a public school, the archdiocese and all of that. Yeah. Totally different. And I took the same things there and lost out on that opportunity as well. But once again, going back to how I was raised and what I was around and things of that nature played a big influence. I honestly believe that if I was taught to solve my problems with my words and not my fists, I don't know what would have happened, but I know a lot of problems that I had wouldn't have happened growing up.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I've never been in a fight, and I always like to say it's because everybody's afraid of me, but that's not the case. that's not what it is. But I mean, I never have, and usually like most problems can be resolved just by talking it out, and even if it gets pretty heated, talking it out like that you can solve most problems that way. It seems like.
You've never been in a fight, not one physical fight.
No, not that I can remember. I mean, you get in a little, scuffles playing sports, football. You get into a little bit, but that's it. Like never outside of that. No.
See, in my world, that's in the world that we were raised in, that was not possible.
Yeah.
If you didn't fight or if you didn't learn how to fight, then you were a punk.
Yeah.
Basically, you were soft, you were weak, and now you got people picking on you just so that you can fight or learn how to fight.
Yeah.
It was kind of like what's it called? Like emancipation.
Mm-hmm.
What's the word I'm looking for? Basically, welcoming you into manhood if you fought or you got into a fight or you wore wounds and stuff like that. Man, it's very, very sad because nowadays. My boys, I tell them all the time, like, you're not a punk if you walk away.
Yeah.
You're not a punk if you're smarter and you contain yourself and you keep your hands down, like you're the better person. But me growing up, nobody taught me that. So it caused a lot of problems in my life. Yeah, that's crazy. You never got.
I mean, that takes a lot of strength. What you're teaching your boys now is it does take a lot of strength to control yourself enough to walk away when you're angry and just suck it up and you take that hit to your pride a little bit, but like it's not worth it. Like thinking long term and thinking what are going to be the end result of this, like it's not worth it, and that takes more strength than giving in to your anger and solving it with your fists, like you said.
Okay. My last question before we close out is, I just wanted to know how was, besides the schooling and things of that, in your teenage years, how was it? Sex, girls, friends, things of that nature, because I lost my virginity at the age of 12.
Yeah.
I wasn't even a teenager yet, How was it for you?
I mean, everything, like the things that we were taught growing up. So let's start with school. So school was like below an A was not acceptable. Like you get good grades, like you get A's. And if you got a B, there was a question like, why are you getting a B or why are you getting a C? Now that's not to say that I didn't get them, but if it was like, if you're not doing well in school, why not? Because you can.
So a B wasn't well.
No, and it's not like it's not like if I was getting a bad grade, like I would get in trouble or anything, but if grades weren't where they were supposed to be, like if you're not getting good grades in school, there would be a question at home, like, well, what's going on? Like, why are you not doing well in school?
Right,
So,
right.
and if it's, are you struggling in school? Like, what's the problem? Are you not working hard enough? Do we need to give you more time? Figure out what it is. But the expectation was, you're going to go to school, you're going to do well in school, you're going to pay attention to school. And it was never a question of, let's say after high school, there was never a question of, are you going to go to college after high school? It was, you're going to college after high school.
So education was priority.
It was a big deal. And I was, like I was saying earlier, when I was having that conversation with my dad the other day, or just yesterday, like that was what we grew up with. Like he valued intelligence, he valued like education, he valued like being able to be successful. And I remember one thing that my dad would always tell me, like I had a lot of really crappy jobs growing up. Like I remember one, like a lot of construction type stuff, and I would come home tired and dirty. Like there was one of my good friends, his dad owned a plumbing company, and I worked for them, like the big industrial plumbing stuff, and that job was hard. And I did roofing too, and that was probably the worst one. But like I would come home just exhausted, and he would tell us, like, you do these jobs now so that you value your education so you don't have to do them later. And like that lesson was taught over and over and over in my head. Like you do well in school and you get a good education so that you don't have to do these jobs that you hate for the rest of your life. And so that's what we taught. So and going back to some of the other questions, like moral discipline. So we're talking about like sex before marriage and drugs and alcohol and some of those things. Like moral discipline was equally valued as any education or anything else. Like you have the discipline that you need to have to make good choices. And I think our understanding of it was good. It wasn't do this because we told you to, it's do this because it may seem like it's limiting your freedom now, but it's actually giving you more freedom. Because when you start to get tied down with some of the things like sex and drugs and alcohol, you start to get, it seems like freedom at the time, but it ends up tying you down and limiting your freedom. And that was taught to us from very little. Like you have moral discipline, and that's how you get real freedom.
Wow. It's amazing how just with guidance, somebody's whole life can be totally different.
Yeah.
With the right guidance. Like I said, with me losing my virginity at 12 and having a kid at 16, it was based off of guidance. I was being guided the wrong way. Brother introducing me to smoking, relatives introducing me to drinking. And if I really had the proper guidance, then it would have been all different from me. It's very important because a lot of people don't understand how much leadership in the household can play. Basically off of moral values and things of that nature, because you can be a leader in the house and be the wrong type of leader. So I think that does play a very, very big role. School wasn't a number one priority for us. It was making money so the house could eat. That's what our main focus was, helping our mom out at any cost or any chance we could. School kind of was something in the back of our mind that it was like, you have to do this because you have to do this, not you have to go because it's going to better your life or your future, or it's something you should want to do, but it was something that we felt like we were obligated to do, so we just went. That's why we didn't see the importance in it, and we didn't really care about the grades like everybody else would. A B for us was awesome. A B for us was awesome. A was excellent. So just getting by, it was a blessing just in our neighborhood to see our kids just get to the next grade. So man, it's two different worlds. Definitely two different worlds. And I thank you for the insight. Thank you for explaining it to me, because a lot of people need to get an understanding of the two different type of lifestyles and worlds are why a lot of people don't understand each other.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand each other, or somebody would say to you, you think you're better than me, but no, you don't. I was just raised different. I was just raised different.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Right. I was just raised different. I don't think I'm any better than you, and that's what we're striving to do with evolvUP, is to change that.
Yeah.
And have people with the same mindsets and the same goals, and are trying to achieve the same things.
Yeah.
So a person like me growing up, I couldn't go to somebody who was a good leader to follow, but instead I had a bunch of negative leaders around me. So I feel like that's very, very important for kids in rural neighborhoods and just hard neighborhoods to grow up in, to have, especially like in COVID right now. Going on with COVID, you can't really leave the house. Domestic violence is at a high rate.
Yep.
Divorce is at a high rate. Who can I go to? Who the heck can I go to? And I need somebody to go to. And that's what we're trying to do with evolvUP, is have somebody to go to without even having to leave the house. Or without having to pay the government or somebody for a counseling session or something like that. Sometimes you just need a peer, a friend, somebody that'll motivate you, and help you out. So,
well, and I think, I mean, I know we're kind of wrapping up here, but one of the things that I think that it's important to point out, as different as our backgrounds are, we can still learn from each other. Like we still have the same goals in life. We still have the same aspirations, and we're still both trying to get to the same place. It's just we are coming to that from very different places. And so it's really important for both of us to be able to have these conversations and to say, your background is it is. And just to understand, just because we are completely different doesn't mean we can't learn from each other, doesn't mean we can't have conversations, doesn't mean that each of us can't add value to each other's lives. It's just our backgrounds are different, and that's it. But our goals, and we can come together and we can find there are things that we can do to help each other to move forward, learning from the differences that we have, instead of using those differences to separate us.
Yeah, you're right on the money. Well, that concludes the podcast. Please tune in for the next episode of Idahomie. I am Gary Mitchell. This is Joe Cooper. That's the man with the plan right there. That's my guy. We will see you guys later.